Welcome friends to another Dune video. Today we'll look at the Landsraad's history as shown in the Dune Encyclopedia. The Imperium began with all its institutions combined into one, but the Landsraad has existed for more than 2 millennia before then, though the nature of the institution has changed over time. Pre-Butlerian Jihad, the Landsraad was made from those representing different governments, I assume from different planets, and these representatives were granted restrictive powers. The Landsraad did not collect tax or have an army of its own, but could call upon the military might of its members, like how a levy can be taken from all these smaller landowners, rulers in an area to join the army of an overall ruler. But within the Landsraad, even offering military help was voluntary. The early Landsraad served as a body, the debate and adjudication of disputes between two or more of its member governments, or alleged violations of some agreement between the parties. In rare cases, the Landsraad might get itself into conflict if one of its members violated an overall law. Even early on, due to the size of the Landsraad, around 13,000 members could not have one person in the Landsraad for each planet, but there were less governments than planets, so it was not an issue, so each government must have had many planets within their care. The vote size for each member was determined by the size of their population, so the larger planets that might become the Landsraad had an advantage here. They would already have a lot under their command, and so could sway Landsraad voting due to their size and maintain their position. There were many differences within the Landsraad's body due to the many varieties of government represented within it, so strict rules were put into place for voting. Speaking to the home world was limited and would take time, and even if it would have been allowed, the message, or messages is better to say, would have been sent back and forth via a messenger on a guild highliner, a very slow way to govern anything. Every planet would have a delegate. Advisors to the delegate would be allowed, but only the delegate could vote, and within one standard day after an issue was raised, so the delegates were very independent and had a great deal of power. They could be briefed by their governments as much as possible before the body was convened, and so to protect these delegates, each delegate was to be granted total immunity from any kind of prosecution or sanction within his home state arising from an action while a delegate was at a Landsraad meeting, since it was impossible for such a large body to deal with every issue placed before it. There were also subsidiary structures. One was the Subsidiaries. These were regional divisions who would govern everything and refer to the full Landsraad, only issues that would affect areas bigger than the one the Subsidiaries cover. They stand for between 2 and 5 districts, and the districts had delegates of between 2 and 5 solar systems to answer these issues. District meetings were given power to decide things in these matters, as they only affected their own members. If this failed, the Subsidiary would arbitrate. The district meetings themselves were held every 2 years. The Subsidiaries were every 5. The last body between the Landsraad and the Subsidiaries was the Landsraad High Council, who would be composed of both official and voting members belonging to the High Council, and they numbered 100. The Landsraad itself would take part in situations when a government by revolution or invasion by another power took place, when there was something that would rock the boat and upset the balance. Rebellion was codified within the Landsraad as just a change in the identity of a government. Official changes of the government itself were considered an internal matter. When there was an imperialistic expansion, the Landsraad would try to discourage this, but this would not always be done. The Landsraad was changed by the Butlerian Jihad. There was the loss of life and starvation due to the loss of computers. The Jihad brought anarchy to most planets. Successful feudal powers, especially those that managed to gain control of a planet, based their power upon a combination of dominance of the world's economy and control of its military forces. Some worlds managed to escape subjection by a feudal power, whether foreign or homegrown. The power of House Carino lasted for as long as it did because it avoided extreme situations that affected the balance of power that made up the Imperium. The Sardaukar was able to conquer any feuding houses that might have survived. When they were bound together, feuding, they were taken apart. The Landsraad itself and the Sardaukar caused another great change. When House Carino rose, the Landsraad became united. to counter and hold on to their own power. Finally, the feudal powers were able to perceive a danger greater than each other, and the advantages of the Landsraad as the focus of non-imperial power became obvious. It was the only organization which provided a means of channeling the common interests of thousands of worlds against House Carino. The Landsraad was then absorbed into the structure of the Imperium along with the rest. The membership changed, with new members being elected after voting would only be allowed by a vote from the High Council. So if a new member wanted to join, they had to go through that process. And largely it said that the High Council would make choices that would suit to maintain their own power, keeping those in that position already there.